Hello everyone, welcome into this video. And today we are going to handle elements and compounds. So today I've prepared a presentation that is majorly going to focus on the definition and examples of elements and compounds. And as we begin, I'm going to define an element. An element, and as students of chemistry, we know very well that chemistry is the study of different materials and their properties. And one of the things that we majorly focus on in chemistry is the element. And we have to know the definition of an element. And I can define an element as a pure substance, which consists of identical atoms. That's the first definition of what an element is. The second definition can be is a substance which cannot be broken down to any simpler mean. Stroke, I can talk about any simpler mean or any other substance. So the major things that I want you to be focusing on whenever you are handling or you are discussing about elements. Now from the definition, an element is a pure substance. And in its purity, you have to know that an element has same atoms. It has same atoms. And these atoms cannot be broken down further. Cannot be broken down further to form any other new thing. Now, let's think of anything that has same atoms in them. Now, as far as that is concerned, now I can come up with anything that I think has same and pure atoms in them. And there are several things that I can say can be categorized as elements. So the first thing is substances that can have pure, substances that can be classified as elements can either be categorized as metals or non-metals. And as far as metals are concerned, I can talk of any type of metal. Those metals that you've heard of in the periodic table. I can have my sodium, and I'm going to write them in words. Sodium, calcium, copper, silver, lead, potassium. These are examples of metals. There are other non-metals that can also be categorized as elements. For example, I'm going to majorly focus on gases such as chlorine, oxygen, oxygen, nitrogen, I can even talk about mercury, etc. There are several non-metals that can be categorized as elements. Now, majorly, the first thing that you have to know as a student, there's this thing we always call it periodic table of elements. So anything classified in the periodic table, they can call them elements. So NB, something to note. Elements are always listed in the periodic table. On the periodic table. And soon I'll make a video about the periodic table of elements and its classification. So most of the things that we have is a periodic table consisting of non-metals, metals, metalloids, all them. Those are examples of elements. So if you see anything as you advance in chemistry and start learning periodic table or everything that is on it, those are properties of those given elements. So always we have a periodic table of elements to give you illustration of what elements are and their properties. The next thing that I want us to handle are compounds. I want us to handle compounds. Now, compounds are classified as ionic, compounds, or covalent compounds. These are the major classifications of compounds. We have ionic and covalent compounds. Now, if they're always classified like that, what do you think is the definition now? What do you think is now the definition of compounds? Now we can say that compounds are chemical substances. These are chemical substances. They are chemical substances consisting of or composed of two or more elements chemically bonded. You can say they consist of two or more elements chemically bonded, and they have to be bonded in a form of a ratio. The elements are bonded in a ratio. Now there is specific orientation, or what do I say? We can call it number of a specific type of element forming that given compound. And we are going to dig deep into that and you're going to see it. Now, from the start, I started by saying that elements are categorized into ionic or compounds are categorized into ionic or covalent. What are ionic compounds? Let me start by handling ionic compounds. Now, ionic compounds, these are compounds formed. Yeah, ionic compounds are compounds formed when metals and nonmetals react. They are compounds formed when metals and nonmetals react. Metals react by losing electrons, while nonmetals react by gaining electrons. From that matter, we can know that ionic compounds are those compounds formed when a given metal and a nonmetal react. And I can give you any example. For example, I can go back to my elements that I listed there. The first one that I listed was sodium and chlorine. Now, I can have a reaction leading to formation of compound, leading to formation of a compound. So, I want to bring in a metal, and in my metal, I'm also going to have a non-metal. Then at the end of the day, I'm going to form my compound. Now, my metal is going to be sodium. And I'm going to react with the non-metal, which is chlorine. I can even decide to do oxygen or any other thing. Then, the compound that I'm going to form at the end of the day is sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is now the name of that given compound formed. So from that matter, I can even go ahead to write it chemically and say sodium, which is Na, reacting with chlorine, Cl2. Then I'm going to form NaCl, solid, gas, because it is a nonmetal, this is a solid. Now, at the end of the day, I can try to balance it. I put a 2 here and a 2 here. So this is a reaction leading to formation of a compound. I started with if you can check very well, I started with the word equation to help you understand what we are dealing with, and also went to the chemical equation so that you can see how the reaction is taking place. Sodium reacting with chlorine to give us sodium chloride. So sodium chloride is now our compound that we formed. But the compound was formed through elements. 2 elements of chlorine and an element of sodium. These other ones are elements. This is also an element leading to formation of a compound. So that's the major thing that you should be knowing as far as elements or compounds are concerned. It is the elements that gives us compounds. We form compounds from elements. And let me also bring another example. I can also decide to react another metal. For example, aluminium. Sorry, let me use different color so that you can have order. Let me continue with black. I can have aluminium reacting with oxygen to give me aluminium oxide. Aluminium oxide. So from the look of things, you can now see that my aluminium is an element. Oxygen is also an element. Then aluminium oxide is now a compound that is being formed. I can go ahead to write this reaction chemically. Aluminium is Al, solid, because it is a metal. Since it is a metal, oxygen is O2, because they are both reacting. Oxygen is a non-metallic element. And at the end of the day, I'm forming aluminium oxide, which is written as Al2O3. This one is now my compound. And the compound is what is formed from different elements. So I can balance this. I want to balance those. I simply put a 4 here. And I put a 2. So aluminiums are 4 in total. They are 4 in total because we are having 2 times 2, which is equal to 4. Now, this side also, I have to make these ones 4. Now, oxygen, when we placed these 2, it affected the oxygen we have here. So the oxygens are 2 times 3, which is giving us 6 in total. So I have to make the number of oxygens here 6. How? I must look for a value that when placed there, when multiplied by 2, will give me this 6. So there is going to be a 3. So I simply come in and put a 3 there. Then my equation is balanced. Thank you very much. That's what I had for you and what I prepared as far as elements and compounds are concerned. Let us meet in the next video.